always says, which was pretty inspiring to me, is just that the best camera is the one that you have.
Hello and welcome to that episode of the Chasing Light Collective, the collective for creators by creators. Today's episode, I'm joined by Fayre, Lyne, all the way from Canada, who is a ski instructor with a passion for photography, as it sounds. And Fayre, how are we?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks for
It's
having me.
about 2:30 over here in the UK, and it's 8:30 in the morning over there.
Yeah,
Um,
8:24,
yeah,
bright and early.
8:24, incredible. Not too tired, I hope.
No, not at all. I'm used to waking up early.
So Fair, how long have you been taking photos for? Where did it all start? Sort of, let's go right back to the beginning.
Um, so for the last decade, I've kind of just been taking photos on whatever little iPhone or I've got or iPod, tiny camera kind of thing. And then just last year, 2 years ago, I guess, I bought myself a newer iPhone. And so I finally had a nicer camera to kind of play with. And then I got introduced to film photography through one of my friends. And so I started playing around with their camera.
Mhm.
I decided I really liked it. So I got myself a little Canon film camera. And I shot film for about maybe half a year, just over that. And it was wearing a hole in my pocket
Oh,
because
really? It kind of was costing you a fair bit, was it,
it
to
really
run?
was. Yeah, it really was because I wasn't just shooting small projects, which I kind of have been lately.
Yeah.
I was just anything and everything. So I was going through a lot of roles, especially on our camping trips, hiking trips. I was going through a lot of film. So after my tree planting season, I saved up and bought myself this Canon 60, and that was probably in June of last year. Um, so it's been about 8 months, I guess, at this point, 6 months
Wow.
at this point.
So you
On,
you went all the way from mobile photography to a Canon 6D, sort of, just that was the jump you made.
yeah, pretty
That's
much.
a hell of a jump. And we had a similar creator not too many episodes ago talk about a similar thing. Went from mobile stuff and took the jump and went sort of like DSLR mirrorless. But
Right.
how have you found the jump? Has it been easy, or do you still sort of have the same sort of, you're enjoying that learning curve?
It's definitely been a learning curve for
Mhm.
sure. Um, for like, I'm really thankful that I started with film, like film being my first real
Yeah, of
camera,
course, of course.
because it really helped me get a feel for the settings and kind of the technology of the camera um, before going to a DSLR. So
Sort
I
of,
kind of had,
sort of gave you an eye for it, perhaps.
yeah, exactly. It was a good stepping stone for sure. But it has been a learning curve with my DSLR because, like, at first I did do a lot of research and I kind of contemplated doing like a bridge camera or going right into the 60, but I figured it was probably just the best um, decision in the long run. I didn't really know at that point where photography would take me, so I kind of just wanted something
Yeah,
that would
I,
be,
I get you. I get you. I completely understand.
yeah. So yeah, it's been a learning curve for sure, learning about the different, I guess, the different settings that have to do with it being digital. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I'm
And
happy with the camera that I've
the,
got.
the work you've produced in the last year, am I guessing then is sort of like a last year, sort of maybe year and a half thing then with
Yeah.
digital?
With digital, just since June of 2020.
Wow, so less than a year. You've The work featured in the book is all within sort of the last 9 months then.
Yeah, around that.
That's quite impressive
Thank
because
you.
a lot of people, obviously you've had a bit of learning with film as well to sort of, I guess, get your eye in a little bit, perhaps maybe learn the
Mhm.
foundations of photography.
Yeah, definitely. The films really helped me because I really liked film because you can't see what you're producing, so it's definitely just like a shot in the dark.
That's a really interesting way
So
of putting it. And I guess it's kind of like you only get one shot with that, and you can't. It kind of it's more pressure on you not to get it wrong. And now that you've gone digital, it kind of gives you a bit of leverage in the fact that you can make those mistakes now without
for
costing you a
sure.
fortune.
Yeah, 100%. It's given me a lot more freedom with that. Um, Especially like learning on film when I was hiking and stuff. I didn't want to mess up. Well, not to say mess up, but I didn't want to, underexpose or overexpose one of the shots that I was
Oh,
taking
okay.
because I wanted to have a good picture to remember the trip. And so I yeah, so I'm really glad I learned that because now that I have my digital, I can kind of play around a little bit more in the moment with the settings and get that
Yeah,
instant.
no, I get that. I get that. Do you think it's quite? I think it'll be inspiring for a lot of people listening who, because photography is not a cheap hobby. You know, I know you said that it burnt a hole in your pocket just being on
Yeah.
film, but a lot of people think that they can't create stuff with their phone, and obviously you said for a long time that was what you were quite happy doing.
Hmm.
Um, do you think that sort of having had that experience, you maybe appreciate digital a bit more? Was it the perfect time to come to digital, or would you still be quite happy using your phone to sort of create those stories?
Um, I'm definitely glad I went to digital. But I mean, like I still use my phone um a lot of the time
Yeah.
for just whenever I'm out, just because I mean I don't quite have all of the gear yet to be packing my camera around
No, I get that. I get that.
like that. Like I don't want to break it, right? So I don't have this backpack and all the gear. So I mostly just take my phone out skiing or hiking.
Hmm.
Um, and just because it's lighter, I mean, it's easier to use. But yeah, I mean, you can still produce some really good stuff on your phone. And one of the creators that I follow on Instagram, he's from BC.
Hmm.
His name is Emmett Sparling. He's just kind of a pretty big photographer in BC at this point, and he always says, which was pretty inspiring to me, is just that the best camera that you have is the one, or the best camera is the one that you have with you at the
That's
time.
a
So
really nice way of looking at it. And
yeah, for
I've never actually heard anything like that before. I guess your work shouldn't be based on the tools; it should be based on your eye, sort of thing.
sure. Definitely. And yeah, I mean, it's just like, I guess in that way, it's just what story are you telling and what are you trying to portray with it, I guess. And like, I don't know, it definitely made me feel better about all the years that I only had my phone and I didn't really take photography seriously when I had, like, I took it seriously, I loved it, but it wasn't like something that I thought I could get into because, I only had a phone.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would be in the same boat to you in the fact
Yeah.
that they think because they haven't got the gear, or because they can't afford a camera at the moment, or because they can't get that
Hmm.
entry level camera, that perhaps having a mobile phone doesn't make them sort of credible.
Hmm.
When in fact, what you're saying there is in the fact that you might not have the gear or the tools, but you can still tell a story, and that's what photography should all be about, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, any camera that you've got, you can show people, you can take that photo and tell that story, and it's just as good as the high tech, uh, like massive
Yeah,
lens
no, I get that.
that
The,
you've
the
got.
fancy stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think your creativity has been pushed sort of regardless of having kit? Let's just ignore kit for a minute because we've talked a lot about that so far. But I don't know what lockdown's been like in Canada over the last year. I don't know where you are now. Maybe you can fill us in a little bit on that. But has creativity been pushed a little bit with the restrictions over there?
Yeah, so lockdown, I really only had to do one of them so far, like one real lockdown, back in March, April of last year. And yeah, it was tough for sure. It was good and it was great and it was hard. Like it was a good mix.
A good mix.
So yeah. So I was at my stepdad's farm kind of 45 minutes away from any town for about 2 months. And it was great because I had all these animals that I could kind of go hang out with, horses and cats and dogs. And so some days I would get just this big wave of inspiration, and I would go play around with double exposures. This was while I was shooting film, mind you. Go play around with double exposures with my kitties, and then go hang out with the horses and take pictures of them. And yeah, and then there was other days where it was just like I would go a couple days, weeks without picking up my camera. And yeah, it was interesting for sure. So those 2 months, I got a lot of some of uh, my favorite photos that I've taken so far, like my favorite film photos. But there was some pretty big gaps between me taking them. And I guess since then I haven't really had to do any real lockdowns because just the nature of my jobs. I'm outside a lot of the time. So, and I mean, BC, Canada hasn't really had any full-blown lockdowns since then. So,
That's quite lucky,
mhm.
and obviously, I guess not so much lucky. Obviously, depending on the kind of work you do, kind of warrants how much you get to be outdoors. And I believe, are you a ski instructor at the moment? Is that right?
Yeah, right now I'm a ski instructor in a little mountain town, southern BC.
That's 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 an incredible job, and I think a lot of people would be very, very jealous of that right now. The fact that you kind of get to spend what some people are considering one of the worst times of their lives, kind of going down sides of mountains, things like that, and you can really see
Mhm.
that in the work that you produce. Obviously, you're right within the heart of the mountains. Has um
Yeah.
has life always been in the mountains for you?
Yes and no. So, well, I guess I should say mostly yes. I am pretty lucky. Um, so growing up, I lived in a pretty small town um, in northern BC, and yeah, we were in the mountains for sure. We had a little ski hill, nothing big, just kind of rolling hills. But um, I grew up skiing, and I was lucky enough to have kind of a grandfather figure who brought us to a bigger resort once or twice every winter and taught us to ski, and he kind of shaped me into the skier that I am today. And yeah, so, and we always kind of did a mountain trip, some sort of winter ski trip, um, at least once a winter. It was usually to the same resort, but yeah, I've always been surrounded by them, and I've always kind of seeked them out since being on my own, since leaving high school and leaving my mom's house. Um,
Does does and correct me if I'm wrong, but does sort of mountains kind of resemble home to you a little bit? If you're away
oh
from them, does it feel quite hard sometimes, or
yeah, for sure. I honestly I haven't really ever not been in the mountains.
okay?
Like last a year, maybe 2 years ago, I went to Ontario for a wedding. Um, and of course, southern Ontario, there's not a lot. It's pretty flat. It's beautiful country, but it is pretty flat, and I felt very out of place. Uh, just
Because of the environment.
yeah, just new environment, right?
That's interesting, and like I said before, sort of your work is all very, very mountain based, and a lot of people in England, a lot of people around the world strive to come to Canada as sort of like a bucket list. I know it's certainly on my travel list. I'd love to go and visit Canada and see all that kind of stuff from you guys. Is there anywhere in the world that you really want to go and explore and kind of see a different side to the world?
Yeah, number one on my list right now is Japan. Last year I tried to get a working holiday visa to work over there as a ski instructor.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah, they've got an incredible winter season, lots of powder,
Yeah,
and
no, I bet.
yeah, I didn't qualify for the visa, It's a little tricky to get in, but um, I'm also kind of thankful that I didn't qualify at the time, because I would have just gotten sent home early, and
Mm.
I wouldn't have had the same, like, as much time to
Kind of
really
enjoy
explore.
it and
Yeah, and
enjoy the
really,
culture a little bit.
yeah, for sure. Would have been cut short. So I'm thankful for sure that I have another chance at it. I can do it once the borders open up. That's high on my list. And next would be like Scotland or New Zealand, somewhere grassy and rolling hills.
Yeah, no, that it's funny how Japan, Scotland, and New Zealand, they're three countries you wouldn't normally put in the same sentence.
Not
But
quite the same.
it's a very nice way of looking at it, and clearly all three areas kind of contain mountainous landscapes still, which is interesting. So it must be very important to you sticking by those mountains. And it's funny that it kind
Yeah.
of reminds you of home. Does does the camera does that come with you everywhere, or
Um, y-
sometimes you just go and enjoy it for yourself?
yeah, I mean, it does. It comes with me everywhere, but on some trips, like some hiking trips or walks or whatever, I won't take it. I found this summer that I got, t- I don't know how to put this. I was too focused on taking pictures of everything, and I wasn't taking the time to just enjoy the moment for myself. So,
Wow, that's something that not just yourself has realized. That something I've learned, something that I think a lot of people who do take photos or just enjoy doing it as a hobby, even not necessarily professionally, it's
mhm,
you kind of, and this is why social media can be quite bad for it, is we live and breathe in this era of we must create content, we must get it out, constantly get it out, that you
mhm,
don't really appreciate the moment you're living in right now.
for sure.
And
Um,
a lot of the work you've produced has been on your own a little bit, if I'm right. And I see some of your
yeah,
stuff online. You do a lot of these little travels on your own. For the people at home listening who aren't aware of, you've done a lot of stuff where you go out on what looks like a little camper van or in the back of your car, and you kind of appreciate life a little bit like that. Um,
yeah.
is that sort of because you're trying to live in the moment a little bit more?
Yes and no. So the last 2 years of my life, I've been mostly full time living out of a van. And that's, yes, I want to live in the moment 100%, and I want the freedom to kind of just explore and see as much of my province of British Columbia as I can. Uh, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely like a large part of it is living in the moment, and it's been a really great experience
It
to be
it's
able to have
it
my car and my camper van.
it sounds like, are you growing out of it a bit, perhaps, or has it kind of had its time, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I would say I'm growing out of the full-time living in a camper van. Like, this season has been my first season in 2 years, living in a house for the
Oh
full
wow,
season, paying rent and doing all the adult stuff.
the adult stuff. Yep.
And I mean, I do miss living in a van. It was a lot of fun. It's very minimal, uh, very adventurous.
Would you
But I do
recommend
like,
it to anyone else?
oh yes, absolutely. You have to, it's tricky, like you have to be pretty comfortable with not, um, like showering at a gas station and
I get
or in a
you. I get you.
or you have to be comfortable with some of the not so pretty things. But it's so much fun and you learn a lot. Um, but I've definitely been enjoying the stability, I guess, of living in a house and having a warm place to come home to and
I was going to say, do you sort of
stuff.
perhaps now appreciate sort of everyday essentials, perhaps, as some people would say, as
Oh yeah.
luxuries a little bit?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like one of the things that excited me the most when I moved here. was I had a closet and I didn't have
Wow.
to pack up into my backpack every day. And I love thrifting, and I have a habit of buying too many random clothes that I don't
Mm.
necessarily wear, but I really like.
Yeah, no,
And so
a lot of people out there like that.
yeah, and so it was a bit of a problem living in a van because you only have one backpack. So I was constantly picking and choosing, like, what do I need to bring with me? What do I need to leave in my storage locker? But this time when I moved, I was able to bring all of my clothing collection, all of my like rocks and trinkets and paintings that I've kind of collected, and all my books. I've just had to be able to like set up my own space, which has been really nice.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah, so I would definitely say I'm growing out of the van life. I want to get another van this summer after tree planting season, but it won't be a full-time living situation. It would just be for, road trips, adventures kind of a thing.
I'm so jealous of that, and I think a lot of people will not only be inspired by the lifestyle that you've kind of, you've had for the last couple of years living at the back of the van, and
Hmm.
a lot of people, that doesn't sound like a luxury at all, but I think there's a lot of people out there who would love to be able to do stuff like that right now. And although I'd love to carry on talking to you for the rest of the day about just some of the experiences you've had out there, and the beauty of this is there are people who can now go and check out your work and kind of live those experiences a bit with you, hopefully. Um,
Yeah.
is there anything you would say to sort of people at home that you would do differently looking back? Do you have any regrets on anything you haven't done yet, or are you just looking to the future right now?
Um, I mean, yes, I have some regrets on things that I haven't done. Like after high school, I was planning on, well, my best friend, who is in the UK right now, and she went
Hmm.
to Australia when we left high school, and I was, hoping to save up and go out there with her. But of course, I met a boy, and then we got a van, and I mean, I do regret not going to Australia, but I also don't, because I mean, I've been fortunate enough to live the life that I've lived in the last 2 years. I've learned a lot about myself, about cars,
Yeah,
about fixing what I need to fix, doing what I need to do. So yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for where I'm at for sure, and I think that everything that um, everything that I've experienced has kind of helped me become the person that I am today. So I try not to regret things too much.
that's
And
a
I
really
just,
nice way of looking at it. And
yeah.
it, a lot of today's chat that I've had with you, and I think a lot of people who are at home listening, will it will resonate well with them. That a big theme throughout today's conversation has been about appreciating the moments we're in, and
Mhm.
and like you said, not regretting about the past, and just enjoy who you are and the fact that you know you're where you are today because of who you are. And something I'm learning a lot from all these different chats is all these little things in life that I kind of potentially didn't take seriously enough myself. And I appreciate that. Thank you a lot today, Fair.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great talking to you.
And it's been wonderful to have you on the project. And of course, you can
I'm
check out
really
all of
happy.
Fair's work online. Her Instagram is on screen. I must say, Fair, you are on Instagram a lot at the moment, and it feels like we live every moment of every day with you. So keep up the good work, and
Oh, thank you.
hopefully, a lot of people will enjoy your journey as much as I have. And of
Thank you.
course, you can check out the rest of the creators all through the book or online. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Chasing Light Collective. Thank you.